Welcome back to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we don't just skim horoscopes, we dive into the hidden architecture of the stars and how those cosmic patterns weave through psychology, history, and the oddities of everyday life. Today, Sagittarius, we turn our lens directly on you. And I want to say this plainly, you are not just running errands and chasing deadlines this week. You are walking into a chapter where justice, balance, and victory finally meet you halfway. From the outside, life may look ordinary: emails to send, bills to pay, maybe even a sink full of dishes glaring at you, but beneath that surface something far more profound is moving. Think of it as the ground beneath your feet shifting, not to trip you up, but to lift you higher. It is as though the universe has been clearing its throat for years just to whisper in your ear, Sagittarius, the stage is yours. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of small win where you snag the last donut in the break room or secure the best parking spot at the grocery store, though let's admit, those moments can feel like cosmic blessings. I mean a real breakthrough, the kind that rewrites your story and makes sense of all the storms you've weathered. Every challenge, every false start, every time you felt like you were walking through fire, it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. This week reveals just how much resilience you've built and how close you are to stepping into the recognition and balance you deserve. In true Sagittarius fashion, the victory won't just be about crossing the finish line, it will be about laughing, learning, and somehow turning even the chaos into a story worth telling. In my decades of studying the intricate dance between astrology, human psychology, and the hidden architecture of our spiritual lives, I've learned that certain weeks arrive not as casual visitors but as initiations. This is one of those weeks for Sagittarius. The universe is not merely tossing you coincidences or pretty signs, it is presenting you with an initiation into deeper self-awareness. If lately you've been catching glimpses of people who seem strangely familiar, carrying an aura that feels just slightly out of place, you're not imagining it. Ancient traditions would call these encounters brushes with earth angels, specifically, the dominion angels whose role is not to stroke your ego but to hand you a mirror. And if you've ever had someone hand you a mirror when you weren't ready to see yourself, you know it can be both unnerving and liberating. Their message to you right now is clear: face your shadow. This is not about battling some villainous force hiding in your psyche, but about acknowledging the unpolished, half-forgotten corners of your soul, the doubts you pushed aside, the fears you disguised as jokes, the messy truths you hoped would stay buried under busyness. As a Sagittarius, the archetypal traveler and philosopher of the Zodiac, you have a gift for scanning the horizon for meaning. But even the most seasoned explorers sometimes skip a stop or two on their inner journey. This week, though, the dominions are asking you to pause, unpack your internal luggage, and look at what you've been carrying. It's only by shining light on those hidden corners that you unlock the next level of your freedom. Think of it like cleaning a closet you've avoided for years. You'll sneeze, you'll cringe at the outdated outfits, maybe even laugh at your old tastes, but once you're done, the space and you feel lighter, freer, and finally livable. Your affirmation this week is simple but potent: I am willing to light up all parts of myself. Write it down, whisper it into your coffee, or, in true Sagittarius style, shout it into the midnight sky while your neighbors quietly wonder if you've joined a cosmic flash mob. Humor aside, the practice works because naming your intention out loud signals to your nervous system and your spiritual guides that you're ready. The tarot cards echo this theme and bring the story into sharper focus. Justice steps forward first, not as a suggestion but as a major arcana, which means the energies at play are larger than your daily to-do list. Justice is the moment when truth is revealed, balance is restored, and karma, that long-distance runner, finally crosses the finish line. Maybe you felt unfairly treated at work, misunderstood in a relationship, or unseen within your own family. Justice signals that the scales are tipping back toward you. Don't expect fireworks, Often justice arrives with a quiet finally rather than a drum roll. Then enters the Six of Wands, the card of victory, recognition, and public success. This is not the shallow attention of social media likes but the deeper acknowledgement of your resilience and your choice to keep walking when others gave up. Picture yourself on a stage, not as an actor playing a role but as someone receiving a standing ovation for simply being true. People are watching, applauding, maybe even envying a little, but that envy is a testament to the courage you've shown. The King of Cups completes the triad. He is the archetype of calm in the storm, the person who remains emotionally stable while chaos swirls around. This is the real lesson for you this week. Life does not suddenly become easy, but you are learning to master your inner balance. Anyone can smile when the sun is shining. The test of mastery is maintaining your peace when the winds howl. This is what makes you one of the chosen ones, not chosen because the universe plays favorites, but because you have chosen to do the inner work, to sit with your shadow instead of running from it, and to cultivate a steadiness that others can lean on. From a psychological perspective, this is the shift from reactivity to self-regulation, from clinging to clarity. From a Buddhist perspective, it's the practice of seeing the storm as impermanent and your equanimity as the only real refuge. In everyday American English, it's the ability to say, "Not my circus, not my monkeys," and actually mean it. There's humor in this process, too. Sagittarius thrives on humor, it's your secret weapon. You can turn even the darkest material into a story worth telling. That ability to laugh, to see a bigger picture, to transform chaos into a lesson that's not avoidance, it's alchemy. This week, your humor isn't just a coping mechanism, it's a bridge between your old self and your emerging self. By facing your shadow with a wink rather than a wince, you neutralize its power over you. And as you do, the cards promise justice, recognition, and emotional mastery. This isn't a one-off lucky break. It's the culmination of months, maybe years, of preparation. It's the moment when you realize the storms you survived weren't detours, they were the training ground. Now, as the dominions lean in with their mirrors, as justice restores balance, as the Six of Wands lifts you into the spotlight, and as the King of Cups steadies your heart, you're invited to step fully into that new space. You're not just surviving, you're winning, and doing it in a way that's uniquely Sagittarian, bold, honest, a little messy, but ultimately expansive. If you can keep your humor, your curiosity, and your commitment to self-mastery, this week doesn't just mark a victory, it marks the beginning of a new chapter where your inner freedom becomes your outer reality. The cards speak this week of a delicate choreography, the timeless dance between the masculine and the feminine, those two archetypal currents of human life that flow not only through relationships but through the interior world of every individual. For Sagittarius, a sign that so often gallops forward with the force of a horse that forgets to look sideways, this lesson is not an abstract curiosity, it is a necessity. The masculine energy, with its drive to act, conquer, and decide, must meet the feminine energy, with its instinct to receive, reflect, and intuit. Action without receptivity becomes recklessness, intuition without expression becomes paralysis. The teaching for you now is not in choosing one over the other but in learning how to let them converse. Sometimes the greatest proof of strength is not in drawing the bowstring tighter but in pausing, waiting, and allowing the wind to carry the arrow where brute force never could. Contracts, commitments, unfinished romances, disagreements that still echo in your memory, all of these test your ability to balance the two. Divorce, disappointment, or even that awkward silence left by a misunderstanding are not failures but invitations into equilibrium. You are being asked to discern when to grip tighter and when to unclench. And, let's be honest, letting go has never been a Sagittarius hobby. You would much rather saddle your metaphorical horse and chase a new horizon, arrow blazing, than sit quietly with the ache of surrender. Yet in this season, surrender itself may prove to be your wildest adventure, for it requires you to travel inward, a terrain less photographed but infinitely more revealing. The universe, ever the playful trickster and patient teacher, is not leaving you without signals. This week it speaks in symbols, weaving meaning into the fabric of your ordinary hours. The color red insists on catching your attention, perhaps a passing car, perhaps the shirt someone wears in a fleeting encounter, perhaps your own nails painted in a moment of boldness. Each red flicker is a whisper, justice is near, victory is within reach. Numbers, 2, will flash across your path, 11, 6, 14, and the potent angel number 1212. They are not random. They are nudges to persist, to stay aligned with your truth even when it would be easier to drift. And then there are doors, the ones closing behind you and the ones opening ahead. It stings to watch certain doors shut, especially when you once prayed they would stay open. Yet every closed door has been part of the architecture that shaped the person you are now. Ahead lie open doors, opportunities that feel intimidating, invitations that stretch you, chances that almost make you laugh nervously at how unprepared you think you are. But here lies the paradox: you are always more prepared than you believe. And every step you take through these thresholds is not just personal progress, it is participation in a larger unfolding, the year of triumph 2025, when the Sagittarius spirit proves again that courage is less about the absence of fear and more about walking forward anyway. But here is the heart of the message: you are not winning this week because you have outperformed others. This victory does not come from competing in someone else's arena. You are winning because you have outgrown yourself, outpaced the habits and reflexes that once chained you. The old you, the one who rushed headfirst into conflicts that never belonged to you, who answered midnight texts out of guilt rather than joy, who tried to mend everyone else's fractures while leaving your own unattended, that self is bowing out. The new you understands the wisdom of not my circus, not my monkeys, and this time, you actually mean it. The peace you choose is not passive, it is powerful. It radiates outward, calming storms and making you a steady presence in a world addicted to chaos. That is leadership, though you may not call it so. That is wisdom, though it does not parade itself. It is the quiet legacy you are already building. And because Sagittarius without humor is like a bow without arrows, let's admit that peace in your world does not look like 12 hours of silent meditation on a mountaintop. It looks like belly laughing at your own joke until you forget the reason you were angry in the first place. It looks like cranking up your road trip playlist so loudly that the chaos in your head surrenders to the power of Springsteen or Fleetwood Mac. It looks like declaring not today and eating tacos while the world tries to pull you into battles you never signed up for. Peace is not the absence of noise but the decision to curate which noises you let in. And yes, tacos count as a spiritual practice if eaten with awareness. Buddhism would remind you that clinging creates suffering, and psychology would echo that self-regulation begins with conscious choice. So laugh, dance, sing too loudly, or simply breathe. In all of it, you are choosing the victory of balance over the illusion of endless struggle. This week's triumph is not in competing harder but in living freer, and that, Sagittarius, is a story only you could write. This week, Sagittarius, the universe seems to be pulling you into the arena of community, recognition, and the long road that stretches ahead. I see you in rooms filled with energy workshops, lectures, social gatherings, maybe even something as small and casual as bumping into an old friend at a coffee shop. These encounters may look ordinary on the surface, but there is nothing casual about the lessons they bring. Some people you meet will lift you higher, amplifying your fire, while others will quietly pull from your reserves, leaving you feeling strangely depleted. The wisdom here is simple but not always easy. You are not required to pour your energy into places where it leaks away. You are not the Zodiac's permanent cheerleader, though you have often played that role. This week asks you to become more selective, to reserve your flame for those who know how to kindle it rather than extinguish it. In a world where social obligations often masquerade as virtue, your greatest act of courage might simply be saying no. And here's the truth that even you, Sagittarius, sometimes forget: you are a pathfinder. Even when you feel uncertain, even when you stumble, people follow the arc of your journey. Sometimes it's obvious, like applause at a performance or public recognition online. Other times it's quiet, hidden in the way a friend dares to chase their dream because they saw you refuse to give up on yours. You may not always see your own reflection in the lives you touch, but you inspire more than you know. The way you keep walking forward, even when you trip, gives others permission to try again. And if you've been longing to be truly seen, whether in your work, your art, your relationships, or simply your presence in this world, this is your moment. Recognition is not lurking in some distant future, it is already walking toward you. This is your Six of Wands season, where the spotlight is not an accident but a rightful consequence of your resilience. So, don't shrink from it. Don't brush it aside with false modesty. Own it. Recognition is not arrogance when it is earned through persistence and integrity. Yet beyond the applause and the nods of approval lies the deeper lesson for this week: mastery of self. Mastery does not mean perfection, and that is where many stumble. Perfection is a cage, mastery is freedom. To master yourself means you show up each day with the intention to honor who you are, no matter how you feel. It means you allow your emotions to speak but not to seize the steering wheel. It means you keep your rhythm, your routines, your spiritual practices even when the noise of the storm threatens to knock you off course. In Buddhism, there is a teaching that clinging is the source of suffering. Sagittarius, you are learning to loosen your grip. To release the illusion of control. To breathe instead of bracing, to trust instead of forcing. To let experiences move through you rather than crystallize into your identity. This does not make you passive, it makes you powerful. The calm archer can see farther than the one trembling with fear. But self-mastery is not only about peace of mind, it is also about devotion to your craft. Whatever your gift may be, teaching, painting, writing, leading, healing, or simply making the kind of banana bread that could solve family feuds, you are being called to show up for it. The universe has been quietly grooming you for this role, sharpening your edges, softening your heart, reminding you that persistence is greater than brilliance when brilliance refuses to work. If you tend to your craft with regularity, if you give it your time and attention, it will shine, and you will shine with it. Recognition may be the spark, but mastery is the fuel. And this is what ensures that your influence will not flicker out when applause fades but will continue as a steady flame that others can warm themselves by. When we step back, the big picture comes into focus. Sagittarius, you are winning this week. Not because life suddenly turned smooth, but because you continue to walk despite the bumps. Not because the storms have ceased, but because you are learning to locate peace within the storm. The angels remind you that shadows are not to be feared but faced. Justice reminds you that the scales, even if slow, are tipping in your favor. The Six of Wands reminds you that the light is on you, not as a passing accident but as recognition of your persistence. And the King of Cups reminds you that the greatest victory is not external applause but the steady calm of a heart at peace. You are aligning now with the chosen ones, those who transform their scars into stories of resilience, who wear their struggles not as shame but as evidence of endurance. And as the year of triumph 2025 stretches its arms open, your persistence becomes your greatest asset. It is your superpower. This year will not reward those who sprint and collapse, it will reward those who keep walking with faith and a touch of humor when the path gets strange. And let's not forget the Sagittarian flair for humor, which is more than entertainment, it is survival. Peace in your world is not 12 hours of chanting mantras on a mountain. It might look like laughing at your own joke so long that you forget you were angry in the first place. It might look like blasting your favorite road trip playlist until even your anxieties give up trying to shout over the guitar solo. It might even be saying nope, not today, while enjoying tacos with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that nourishment and joy are just as sacred as prayer. If peace arrives through humor, let it. If calm comes through absurdity, embrace it. The Buddha himself was known to smile at the strangeness of the world. Why shouldn't you? So here is my final encouragement: pick up your crown, Sagittarius. Adjust it if it tilts, but do not put it down. This week the finish line is not just visible, it is yours. Walk forward boldly, humorously, passionately, with just enough recklessness to remind yourself that you are alive. Do not wait for permission to enjoy the life that is already unfolding around you. Victory is not a far-off horizon, it is here, stitched into your daily choices, into your laughter, into your quiet persistence. And as we close, I want to invite you to keep this energy alive not just within yourself but within our shared journey here. If this message resonates, if you feel the truth of it stirring inside you, support the circle we are building. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel Zodiac Talks Tarot. Together, we will continue to explore the ways the stars, psychology, and spirit weave their stories into our lives. Sagittarius, your path is not only ahead of you, it is already beneath your feet. Step forward.